Here at KNBR 6A, Jon Miller. It's Hall of Fame weekend, and this class that's going in, an amazing class of players. Get to some of your reactions to Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, John Smoltz, Craig Biggio, and also Dick Enberg, who gets a Ford C. Frick Award.
Well, Randy Johnson, I remember Randy Johnson when he was just a young guy throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and didn't always know where it was going. And I do remember, I'll never forget having a few moments with him before a game at the Kingdome. He was going to go up against Roger Clemens, and it was a Sunday night national telecast on ESPN. And I just happened to stroll through the clubhouse, and there he was. And, usually with pitchers, the day that they're starting, you leave them alone. But he was the only guy, and I saw him, and we made eye contact. So I went over and said hello and introduced myself. And we talked for several minutes about things that had been happening for him, that he was 6'10". There were a lot of moving parts to his delivery. And the thing that had happened for him just that year, and this is still the early 90s that I'm talking about, was that now when he would get out of sorts, he'd throw a pitch and realize that he was all screwed up with his mechanics. He would know what the problem was, and he could adjust that and correct it from one pitch to the next, where before he said he was just going to be all screwed up for the rest of that inning or until the coach came out and helped him figure it out. So he had that sort of physical body awareness that only comes with experience. And I always remember that because when he got to be really good, and it was just a short while later, he was already good, but he moved to that next level where he was good all the time, where those days where he'd walk 7 guys just disappeared. And I was kind of proud of just what he'd been able to do, having gotten to know him a little bit and just seeing him grow as a pitcher. So I'm real excited to see him in there because he had some obstacles that most guys don't have. Just being 6'10", I think, was that kind of an obstacle. But he also, as time went on, we see him open up games, and his first fastball would be 92, 93, and then he'd get to an 0-2 count, and if he didn't put the guy away with a slider, and he had one of the great sliders in the history of the game, then he'd throw a fastball and all of a sudden it'd be 99. And so he had that ability. He realized he didn't have to throw every fastball at 99. So he had that maturity. So I'm real proud of him and real excited for him. And John Smoltz, the same thing. One of my lasting memories of John Smoltz was the 1999 World Series, Atlanta at the Yankees. It was the second World Series that I broadcast nationally for ESPN Radio. And that was in that run where the Yankees just could not be beat, and in the postseason. And he was really hurting badly. And he was trying to keep the Braves alive at Yankee Stadium. And finally, I'm watching the pitch come in on the center field camera on the monitor in the booth. And I look at Joe Morgan and say, that looked like, I don't believe he throws a knuckleball, but I think he just threw a knuckleball. And Joe said, I agree. And then we watched him, and all of a sudden, most of his pitches for the rest of that game were knuckleballs. And that was something he only fooled around with on the side, maybe playing catch between starts. But he said his arm was hurting so badly, and there were very few of his normal pitches that he could throw for fear that the arm was just going to fall off. So he was just such a competitor and such a warrior that he says, well, they always tell me when I play catch with them, I've got a real good knuckler. So why hold it back for some other time? This is the time. And so obviously they didn't win that game. They got swept in that World Series. But I always thought that said so much about the kind of a pitcher he was and the kind of ability he had. I remember him giving up a home run to, and I may have it backwards. It was either Jeff Kent with Barry Bonds coming up, or vice versa. Maybe to Barry Bonds with Jeff Kent coming up on a 3-1 pitch or whatever. And he had a 2-run lead. He came on as a closer in his era as a closer. And after the game, he told us, says, well, the worst that Bonds or Kent or whoever was up could do is hit a solo homer. He says, if I walk him, now the next guy could tie the game. Now, I've got to hold on to this lead. And says, even if he gets the homer and the next guy hits a homer, it's only tied. I haven't lost the game. I haven't put us behind. So for him, it was all calculated gambles and calculated risks. And he gave up the home run, and he wasn't so concerned about it. And he got the next guy and then ended up winning by the 1 run. So his ERA suffered a little bit. But thinking man's pitcher who also had the best stuff of when they had all those great pitchers, Maddox, Glavine, even Steve Avery. Smoltz was the guy who had the best stuff, and Smoltz was the guy who was the best of all of those great pitchers in October. Come October, he was the leader on that staff, not Maddox, as good as he was, not the 300-game winners, Maddox or Glavine, but John Smoltz. So congratulations to all of those guys, and Craig Biggio, because Craig Biggio, he was kind of in the same mold of Joe Morgan, you know, not a big guy, a small guy, and he was a catcher besides, and he made the move to second base, which he was kind of unique as a catcher because he could run and he could steal a base, and then they wanted him to move to second base. I don't think he was all that excited about it because it was like, wait a minute, what do I know about second base? But he became a great second baseman, and he became a Gold Glove caliber second baseman.